Can you actually find and scout your hunt using only one online tool? I think you can. So let's take a look at it. What's up, guys? It's Eric from Late to the Game Outdoors, and today we are going to deep dive on GoHunt and how I used it to not only find my antelope tag that I have coming up in a couple weeks, but to do like all of my pre-scouting and then actually scouting in the field. Speaking of GoHunt, I am so proud to be able to say that I've partnered with them. They are part of bringing you this video, and I've been able to offer some value to you over on their site. So if you're not already an explorer or an insider member, but you want to be, click the link below, head on over, use the code LATE when you sign up. You're going to get immediate credit in the shop, which just has hands down the best gear that's out there. So my little gift to you, but let's dig into this. We are today talking about my Arizona archery antelope tag that it took me 13 years to draw. If you're like up in Wyoming or something like that, I'm sure that sounds insane.
You're crazy, man.
We just have very small numbers of antelope out here. They continue to struggle, mostly because of like encroachment on their habitat. And so I didn't pay a lot of attention for years. Just kind of my father-in-law would put me in with him when he was like doing the family tags. Never drew. And as I started like digging into GoHunt and looking at odds, I realized I may never draw this tag. Like point creep being what it is, 13 points in, I'm still in some cases sub 1% draw odds as a resident. And so I started to have to like rethink, okay, if I ever want to hunt antelope here, how am I going to do it? We'll get into like what I found. But essentially, were it not for GoHunt, I wouldn't have even known. I would have just put in for the same rifle hunts and the same units that are great hunts for sure, but would have, barring, like a lottery level miracle, never would have drawn. So to start with, came into my trusty GoHunt world. There's a whole bunch of tools. Filtering 2.0 is really cool if you're like really honing in on some stuff and you have a lot of options. I knew I had next to no options, so I went straight to the draw odds. Then it's simple. Pick your state, pick your residency, then right in here plug in your points, and it's going to isolate that column. Now as soon as I did that, I've got all this stuff to scroll through. So like here are the rifle hunts, and I think I was usually somewhere in like the 19s or something, where 0.6% draw odds with 13 points. It's just absurd. Again, probably a great hunt, but as I looked at that, I thought, this is just not going to happen. I don't think I'm going to get a rifle tag here in Arizona. I'm going to need to go up to Wyoming or something for that, which I'm working on, by the way. But came up here, obviously archery is going to have your better odds. So immediately what jumps out, whoa, I could draw this tag right now. Like 6B, okay, I hunt a lot in an adjacent unit, so I don't know, sounds good. But you don't want to just go like putting in like, oh, I've got the odds, let me get the tag, because maybe it has good odds because it's a crap tag. Which, when you click on this, it's going to give you some more details and, helpful graphs and things like that. Harvest success, not great. I'm not, if you've been around a while, I'm not a huge trophy hunter. Like, I'm pretty much a whatever's legal, I'm going to shoot at it. So I'm not so worried about that. Harvest success is a little concerning. But here's the beautiful part. You click on the actual unit, and it's going to take you into a deep dive of that unit. A lot of cool stuff, terrain and public, private land, all that stuff. And so as you're scrolling down, you're like, okay, this seems pretty good, not so bad. Then you get to the specific species breakdown, and this is where it starts to look terrible. Like, hey, maybe try some places. It's not going to be great. And then you get like more specific into the archery hunt, and it's like, hey, only part of the unit's open. It's not really good antelope terrain, right here. So if I'm going to try to spot and stalk these things or some version of that, like, you can't glass. It's not wide open flat. It's kind of like, okay, this just seems like not the hunt I want. So sure, I could draw this thing, but at that point, I'm essentially burning 13 points for what will probably be not a great experience. I'm not saying you can't get it done, but it's not what I wanted to do. So came back out. Let's look back at this. Okay, 100% odds is off the table, but let's just see. And my mind was immediately drawn to, I don't know why I would say it that way, I started to see something like in the 9-10%. So again, not terrific odds, but way better than 0.6, right? And for the record, I should say as we're getting into this, like I know as a YouTube hunter guy, I'm supposed to keep like all this stuff as secret as I can. When I'm out there filming, I'm like taking great care to not have key landmarks in the background of my shot. It's actually a pain in the butt because there's some beautiful stuff I would love to film, but it would give away where I am. In this case, I don't care. Like, okay, it took me 13 years to draw this tag. It'll be at least another decade before I draw it again, if I even put in for this again, because we'll see how the hunt goes. Maybe it's not that great either. So if you're an Arizona antelope hunter, consider this my gift to you. This is exactly where I'm hunting. It's all just going to be laid bare. So what drew me here was that this cluster of units is the kaibab. So legendary mule deer hunt. I'm actually, I've been saving up points, and I'm supposed to draw that tag next year, which I'm pretty stoked about. So I thought, cool, I haven't actually spent any time up there. Maybe there's something like go hunt antelope up here, get a little familiar with the area, so that next year when I'm up hunting mule deer, granted it'll be different parts of the country, but I don't know, it just feels better having actually been there. So clicked on this to check this out. And now it gets a little weird because it's like a combined unit, so there's like stats that are virtually all the same for all three different subsections of the area. But you can just click in, find the same report that I was looking for, and as you scroll down to like give me the actual stuff that I want, here's what, like, this seemed like an okay hunt. And what made it just so exciting, one of the things I love so much about GoHunt is they've put in like, here's where to find them. Like it's not just you know, buck to doe ratios or animal numbers or success rates, like that's all in there, but they're like, hey, here's exactly where in the unit it's reported that animals are. Okay, now obviously you have to go confirm that, and animals can move and things can change and whatever, but to have this level of a starting point right out of the gate is just amazing. So, you know, stable herd, it's obvious there's a reason it has better odds. Like it's not the premier antelope unit in the state, but it even tells like, hey, here's where you can find them. And also like there's another small herd that's up in this other spot. So immediately I'm like, okay, this is pretty sweet. And then as you get into the archery season, here's some specifics, like they should be, you know, you're in the rut, they should be hanging out with does, as with any early antelope season. Like water's a huge deal, especially in Arizona. So just awesome. I look at all this and think, okay, this sounds like a doable hunt, like better odds. Let me put in for that. So I made my first choice, one of, you know, the same old rifle hunt, because you never know, might as well. But the way Arizona does it, like they're going to look at that. I'm sure I'm not going to pull a tag, but then they'll still go right to my second choice. So this was my second choice, even with 9% odds, managed to draw it. I'm one of, I think, 4 people with this tag, which GoHunt will tell you. So not a lot of competition, not a ton of animals, but great. So I found the hunt using GoHunt. It's a little repetitive, but you know what I mean. Drew the tag. Now I'm into scouting. So I've got this like book report on here's where you should start looking. So I get to go over, pull up the maps, and do my deep dive of starting to like pick apart the landscape. So a couple things I'm looking for, and this varies obviously based on species, terrain, like you're going to approach this differently. Usually if I'm doing like bear and I'm looking for deep dark holes and stuff like that, I start with topo and like find my way into an area that looks like what I'm looking for, and then switch over to the hybrid or the satellite mode. For antelope, knowing it's just big, wide, open flats, and I'm looking for water more than anything else, I just started straight out of the gate in the satellite mode. And then like based on what they said, so you know, here's the Kaibab Plateau, right? Legendary mule deer all up in here, and supposedly,
did they go to the zoo? Supposedly.
The antelope are hanging right off the eastern edge of that plateau, out in this open flat that kind of between the plateau and this canyon that feeds down into the Grand Canyon, which is just kind of cool, hunting right near one of the wonders of the world. Anyway, I started just picking apart, like, okay, based on that, here's my access, here's this major road that, I always try to zoom in and like get a feel for what quality the road is. I drive a 20-year-old truck. It's 4-wheel drive, but I'd prefer to not get stuck or just bouncing around, rock crawling. If that's your thing, more power to you. I don't understand it. Like, it is miserable. I would rather hike than drive. So, decent road, mark some camp spots, like all that basic stuff. And I don't know exactly how far down I am going to go or need to go. But, if they're supposed to be running along the edge of this or out here into the flats just off of this, here's my target zone, brought to you by GoHunt. Then, again, because it's an antelope hunt, I'm just marking water all over the place. Now, this is an area that has a fair amount of cattle ranching. Saw plenty of cows when I was actually out there. And so it's all about tanks. There's not a lot of springs or natural things. There are just big cattle tanks, sometimes in the ground, sometimes just elevated, metal basins. But to the best of my ability, I'm zooming in from the sky, trying to find these things and mark them all down. Now, my system that I use, and this is just something that came to me, and maybe it's an Arizona thing because things are so dry often, but I marked them all whatever color that I just started making these all baby blue. I don't know why. It was just a color that I don't have a lot of in my maps. And so when I was just e-scouting, hadn't set foot there, everything's blue. Then as I got out there and was able to start actually laying eyes on tanks, I kind of came up with a red, yellow, green system. So red is not on here. I'm sure I will find some, but red is the common Arizona. There's a tank on the internet. I'm going to walk out there, stand beside it, and find that all the water is gone. It's just a dried up, nasty mud hole. And that would be red. This isn't a viable water source. But I would keep it on there because things change. You could have a bunch of rain come through over the course of a couple weeks, and now there's water in it. And so I don't want to just lose track of where that tank is. Yellow for me means that there is water in it, but I'm not seeing sign around it. So a couple of these tanks I went to, plenty of water, in this case, plenty of cattle sign, not a single speck of antelope sign. So again, the behavior can change. It doesn't mean they won't hit it because there is water there, but at the moment it seems like they're not really using it. So don't focus your attention there. And then obviously green means go. There is water, there is antelope sign. This is a decent tank to possibly hang out by in a blind. As you can see, there's still a whole bunch of blue in here that I actually haven't laid eyes on because I was only there for a couple days. I did a lot of glassing, hoping to turn things up. Turned up some bucks, but a lot to still explore when I'm actually out there hunting. Now, here's the deal for this hunt in particular. I would love to spot and stalk rather than just sit baking in a blind all day, every day. But I also want to be successful. Who doesn't? So as I'm scouting, I'm looking for where can I, are there little knobs or things that I can get up on where, it's antelope country, so big and wide and flat. As long as I can get just a few feet of elevation, I should be able to see a good long ways, glass these things up. And it's hard to tell with such micro topography if it's going to be spot and stalkable just from the air, right? Because, if there's a little wash or just little cuts, plenty of places you can drop into and try to sneak up. Some of that's just hard to see until you get boots on the ground. But I do love GoHunt's 3D mapping. It is the bomb, as the kids are saying 30 years ago.
Can I drop the bomb? Drop the bomb!
But just to be able to hone in on this and look at, okay, this massive basin, but even within that basin, you can kind of start to see, okay, we've got these little, some little undulations and places where I could pop up, sit here, glass all of this. Again, it'll show you these are gonna be decently tall, and maybe you could drop into this cut right here and, spot a buck out here somewhere, use this to kind of creep in and close some distance. But it's just extremely helpful to be able to kind of pre-locate some stuff and get a feel for, okay, I'm going to sit here. You can see way out in the distance, there's some little bit more topography you could use if you wanted to go way out that way. Anyway, so with all of this intel and just like pre-e-scouting from the air, I did make it up just a couple weeks ago to spend 2 whole days, not even really whole days, but a single overnight, spend some time driving the roads, confirming that camp spots are actually good. And I think I only actually had these 2, found this one along the way, depending on how far down I need to go, looking at antelope activity. Obviously, some of these water tanks have changed colors, so I went and confirmed or denied what was there. And what's amazing, I mean, best feeling in scouting is when you've taken all your e-scouting, you actually get there, and you finally spot an animal. Like, okay, yes, it worked. I found where they are. And in my case, I didn't find a ton of antelope. I saw 2 lone bucks over the course of the trip, so not a ton, honestly. Spent a fair amount of time glassing, probably just as much time driving or hiking around, trying to lay eyes on some different tanks and just check for sign and see what's out there. What will be interesting when I get there is what they're doing now, because again, this was early, like mid-July I was out there, so not really rutting. I didn't see any herds, I didn't see any does, but by the time I'm up there for the hunt, the bucks will theoretically have tried to find some does. So we'll have to see where they are, what they're doing. I did get to use this awesome feature that's on the phone, the Rangefinder they just added to the maps, and it's incredible. I was driving down this road. As I came up, like right around here, there was this buck that I kind of spooked. Like it was up on a rise, and I thought, oh, here's a great spot. I'll hop out of my truck, glass for a little bit, see what's out there. As I hopped out of my truck, I spooked a buck who was like right over here somewhere. And so he did what antelope do and just started running away. Now what was awesome was, he ran for a while and then, got far enough. He calmed down and I just kind of watched him start to walk, and he walked right on into what I think was this tank right here. We'll get to why I think I might be wrong, but we'll see. But I just watched him walk up to this big cattle tank, take a drink, look around, take some more water, and then walk away. But have just looking on my phone, parked right here, looking out there, okay, how far out is he? How accessible is that tank? What am I going to do? They have this amazing rangefinder feature where I could point my phone at that buck. I know I'm looking that direction. That's where he is. Find the tank and then deploy the rangefinder and learn that it was exactly 3 miles away. So that is a ways out there, but it's a tank that I know an antelope has hit because I watched him drink from it. That in my mind, that's even better than sign, because you just know, oh, he just drank from there right now. So it's actively being used. And in the case of this hunt, another thing I got to confirm, I am, again, always looking at roads, trying to zoom in and assess what's going on. The ground here is pretty forgiving, not a lot of boulders. It's not super rocky. It does get sandy and soft in certain places. So, while this main road up here is just fine, and I drove down a little ways, some of these offshoots, I mean, you can spider web network of 2 tracks, and where ranchers are just driving quads or whatever they're doing to check on their water and do their stuff. It's all over the place, but I didn't necessarily want to just take my truck down there. I'm also hunting solo, so if I get stuck, it's a whole nightmare. So I did just buy myself an e-bike that I am pretty stoked about, that I can just basically park at camp, and I'll just take the bike every day from camp and can just cover country like nobody's business, because it's August, it's hot, there is zero cover. So if I'm exploring, if I'm spot and stalking, I'll be on the bike. I can also use it if I end up just sitting water, which I will have a blind with me. I am fully prepared to just tough it out and sit in the blind if that seems like what's going to be most effective. But I can ride the bike to there, park it somewhere semi-discreet, and just sit there and cook all day. Oh, I also forgot to mention, again, because of my helpful GoHunt report, hey, the antelope are here, but there's also some over here. Took the long drive, if this is my main spot, I can drive way over here. It's about an hour to this other little spot, like south of this little border town, because we're almost to Utah at this point, and just try to confirm, like based on what they said. I came over here, didn't spend a ton of time, but like confirmed, okay, I could glass from here if I wanted to. There is a tank there. It did have sign, plenty of tracks, a couple piles of scat. All right, might not be a bad plan C. You know, if plan A and B are somewhere in this region, because there's like plenty of spots to look, I know that, okay, if I'm getting deep into this hunt and nothing's happening and I'm just not seeing stuff, might be worth popping over, trying a totally different spot. That is kind of a long meandering journey through how I used GoHunt to find this tag, to pre-scout it, to actually scout it, how I'm going to use it to hunt. Like, obviously, I'll be on my downloaded maps, which are way cooler with some improvements they've just made, and just, you know, using it to map out these little 2 tracks and fly around on my new e-bike, and it's going to be a blast. It's going to be hot and sweaty, but it's going to be a blast, and hopefully get some opportunities, get a shot, come home with my first antelope. So it's actually the first time I've ever hunted these things, so we'll see. Why not? Guys, thanks so much for watching. Again, if you didn't catch it at the beginning, GoHunt has given me a code to give to you. So head to the link in the bottom, and if you want to sign up for an Explorer membership, which is just the maps and the gear shop, or the full Insider, which gives you the draw odds, the maps, and the gear shop, use the code LATE when you check out, and you'll get instant credit into the gear shop, which once you start poking around there, you will realize they have all the best stuff at great prices, and you can build up points as you shop to use for free gear down the road. It's terrific. So go check that out. If you haven't already, click right down here to subscribe. And if you want to watch just a couple of other videos from recent history, those are right over here. And we'll see you guys next time.